All right, so what is a microcycle? So talking about the foundations of periodization, this is a methodology that is behind most collegiate and professional and Olympic training strategies. And so you find it everywhere, but very few people are implementing it. So for that reason, I have done these series of posts to help people better understand what periodization is and how you can implement it. So what is the microcycle? It's the shortest cycle of training that includes all your training sessions and rest days and is repeated. So this is usually a week in length. So there's a couple things that you want to keep in mind when you're constructing your microcycle, a couple of variables that you'll have to have dialed in order to know that you have a complete microcycle. So we're going to gear this towards hypertrophy training. These prescriptions are going to be a little bit different if you're trying to go for strength, speed, power development, endurance. Hypertrophy is the most common, so that's what we'll stick with. But the first training variable is training frequency. So this is where you will build out your split. You hear people talk about training splits all the time. These are important, but really they can be whatever's best for you. So whatever fits with your schedule and your goals and your training frequency, make a training split that works best for you. There's not a magical perfect split. In the bodybuilding world, they will gear it more towards muscle groups. They'll split up their days based off of muscle groups. In the strength world, if you look at powerlifters and Olympic weightlifters, they'll make their splits based off of movement patterns. So bench, squat, deadlift, or snatch, clean and jerk. I personally like to make my splits revolved around movement patterns. There's less redundancy, and I find that to be more efficient. But you can do it really however you want. Key though is in hypertrophy training, you want to hit each muscle group anywhere from 2 to 4 times per week. That's the optimal range from what the research has shown. The second variable is going to be your training volume. So anywhere between 5 and 30 repetitions is going to be the optimal range for muscle growth. When it comes to number of sets, you want to be somewhere between what's called your MEV and your MRV. Your MEV stands for your minimum effective volume, so that's the least amount of volume you have to do in order to stimulate some type of growth. Your MRV stands for maximum recoverable volume, so that's the most amount of volume that your body can handle while still having some type of growth. So you want to be somewhere in that range. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody based off your training experience. And so if you have questions about how to find that, feel free to reach out to me. The next training variable is going to be your relative intensity. So that's going to be how far or how close you're pushing to failure. If you want to see some type of growth or progression, you have to be near or at failure. So we measure this by reps in reserve. So we want to be somewhere between 0 and 5 reps in reserve. We don't want to be at failure every single microcycle. So that's the beauty behind having microcycles set out and planned in your training, is you can start out earlier on in your mesocycle or training block, starting off with a higher reps in reserve, meaning that you're training further away from failure. And as you progress, you slowly get closer to that failure point. If you're training to failure every single week, or you're not changing your relative intensity, that's where you're going to find your progress being stagnant and not really getting anywhere, or you'll find yourself burning out. And the last training variable is going to be your resistance. Stay between 30 and 85% of your 1 rep max. There's some other different variables that you can add into there, but those are really your core that you have to understand where you need to be at in order to construct a microcycle. And so the purpose behind this is, as you progress throughout your training cycle, you can implement progressions with each one of these variables that will continue to help you make progress throughout your training cycle. So it shouldn't be a copy and paste. This is our training split and we're going to do this infinitely for 6 months. That's not going to get you very far. You'll find yourself falling off and plateauing pretty quickly. So that is what a microcycle is. So if you have any questions, reach out to me. Hopefully that helps.